Welcome to the lesson on the modern Russian political reality. As usual, the learning materials for this topic can be found in the description below the video in order of appearance. Scholars have increasingly recognized the challenge of defining democracy due to differing policy objectives, political biases, and methodological approaches. For example, dichotomous versus continuous measures. Gunitsky notes that these differences often lead to inconsistent or even paradoxical conclusions, such as labeling the US Supreme Court undemocratic. Collier and Levitsky add that a common definition refers to regimes with free and fair elections, universal suffrage, and civil liberties, where, as Colton and McFall suggest, societal acceptance of democratic values is seen as crucial. Nonetheless, as Gallie clarifies, efforts have been made to broaden or adapt the term to accommodate evolving political realities, resulting in various democracy with adjectives labels like authoritarian democracy or military-dominated democracy. This has made the concept more flexible, but also more complex and contested. From 2000 to 2010, some analysts described Russia under Putin as a hybrid regime with democratic potential. However, Gelman argues that after 2010, a general consensus emerged that Russia no longer qualifies as a democracy, even under broad definitions. Instead, it is considered a form of electoral authoritarianism, a non-democratic regime that still maintains formal electoral processes. Electoral authoritarianism combines elements of both authoritarianism and electoral democracy. Gelman states that unlike classical authoritarian regimes, electoral authoritarianism regimes maintain democratic facades, such as elections and parliaments, to gain internal and external legitimacy, even though these institutions lack real power. These regimes aim to prevent public dissent, like street protests, to preserve the illusion of democracy. Gelman suggests further that in electoral authoritarianism, governments must strike a delicate balance, avoiding economic collapse, which could spark unrest, while not advancing development too far, which could raise public expectations for democratization. Russia under Putin exemplifies a unique form of electoral authoritarianism, shaped by its historical lack of democratic traditions and the chaos of past reforms. The Putin regime has introduced democratic-looking institutions like multi-party elections, but these are tightly controlled and lack substance. Many Russians accept this model as a stabilizing force following the instability of the 1990s and fear of national disintegration. Gelman and Migranyan, writing separately, argue that Putin's regime has been sustained through three core mechanisms: super-presidentialism, extreme centralization of power in the presidency; subnational authoritarianism, localized control tolerated in exchange for political loyalty; dominant party system, marginalization and co-optation of opposition to secure parliamentary dominance. Migranyan explains super-presidentialism as a mechanism which enabled Putin to consolidate power, take control of security services, and maintain regime stability. Ironically, the regime sustains itself by preserving a controlled version of democratic institutions, using a weak but managed opposition to simulate legitimacy and avoid real political challenge. The question of whether Russia is a democratic state persists. The Economist Intelligence Unit ranked Russia as an authoritarian state in its 2020 Democracy Index, assigning it a low score of 3.31 compared to Norway's 9.81 and North Korea's 1.08. However, scholars like Gunitsky challenged the validity of the Economist Intelligence Unit's methodology, arguing it may overlook regional democratic variations and place too much weight on voter turnout, which is not a reliable indicator of electoral integrity or democracy quality. Gunitsky also emphasizes that how votes are counted matters more than how many are cast, since, as Huntington notes, high voter participation can coexist with electoral fraud or authoritarian outcomes, especially in societies without liberal traditions. In Russia's case, strongman leadership appeals to many citizens, partly due to the country's vast geography, ethnic diversity, and history of valuing centralized control. Colton and McFall highlight that after the 2011 to 2012 protests, while the regime was challenged, it remained resilient. Putin's leadership resonates with a national preference for order over liberalism, shaped by Russia's historical path from Tsarism to Soviet communism to present-day governance. This cultural context helps explain why Western democratic ideals often fail to take root in Russia. The discussion also raises questions about the biases in defining democracy, comparing Western ideals of individual liberty with the Soviet focus on social justice. These ideological divides, formalized during the Cold War via separate human rights covenants, still shape global political interpretations today. Holmes argues that, ultimately, Russia defies simplistic categorization. While it falls short of liberal democratic norms, labeling it a dictatorship may be premature or misleading, particularly given the lack of consensus on how to define and measure democracy. Political systems, including Russia's, exist on a spectrum, not a binary scale. Thank you for your interest in this topic. To learn more about law and politics, consider taking a look at our other videos. We hope that this lesson was helpful to you and are looking forward to seeing you again soon.